La relation des photographes avec la couleur à l'époque, c'était la commande. Les travaux personnels étaient plus en noir et blanc, et pour la presse, c'était vraiment la couleur.
My name is Pierre Mohamed-Petit. I'm the digital production manager for Paris. I manage all physical assets of the archive, including negatives, and then their integration and retouching into the database. Color slides appeared in the Magnum archive around the 40s, 50s. However, it became a mass-use tool starting from the 60s as soon as big major publications like Life and Nat Geo started publishing features in color. That's when photographers have also shifted, simply because the market was demanding this. Despite the press demands and just the journalism world going towards color, a lot of photographers resisted, simply because black and white was their form of expression. The photographers I'm thinking of mostly is Joseph Kudelka, photographing the iconic Prague 68 revolution, all in black and white, but also people like Henri Cartier-Bresson. For him, the absolute art form of photography was in black and white. For me, Magnum has traced the history of technology in the photographic medium, simply because from the era where Kodak inserted medium format film, to then Oscar Bernac with the Leica camera, to nowadays with the medium format digital technology, every of our contributors, members have used technology as a way to express and tell stories. Magnum throughout the time developed itself following those development in technology, such as the introduction of Kodachrome in the 50s and 60s for photojournalists, and many iconic photographers at Magnum are known for their development in color work, such as Harry Gruard, Steve McCurry, Martin Parr, among others. In photography, and especially in film photography, we use gelatin, which is sensitive to light. In black and white photography, there is one layer of photosensitive and light-sensitive material. In color photography, comparing to black and white photography, we have 3 different layers of sensitive gelatin: red, green, and blue, RGB in digital terms, each being sensitive to a color wave. In the case of Kodachrome, red, green, and blue, that is overlaid and superposed on these different layers of plastic. That's why we end up having a transparency. The transparency is also put in through a big chemical process. In black and white photography, it's just one developer. But for color photography, we basically use a color developer, a film developer, and then also bleach and fix, which they call Blix, to remove everything that is not supposed to be there. When a photographer is on assignment, he'll put a color roll, in this case Kodachrome most of the time behind me. And basically he'll be photographing it following the ISO of the film, and once he exposed the film, he'll develop it in a lab. The lab is going through a big process. For Kodachrome, it was K14, and this process made it so that whenever you develop the film, at the very end, you have this transparency film. At the time, to easily view color sheets, because you cannot make contact sheets or any paper document to reflect this, they would basically put it in cardboards. They would then put it in sheets. In each color sheet, we hold 20 cardboard Kodachromes. We can identify as well that it's a Kodachrome, simply because behind each cardboard, it tells you what kind of film it is. If it's a Kodachrome, it'll be an original. If it's an Ektachrome, which is the poor man's slide, it will be then a duplicate. When photographers come back from assignment, they will hold all their archive in their cold room or Magnum's cold room, and this will be a mix of black and white film and color negative or slide. The archive just behind me, which we call the color library, is basically going to be B choices. So it's not going to be part of the real reason why the photographer went there, but everything that he captured around it. So, for instance, if I'm thinking of Gorgi Pinkasov photographing in Paris or the Festival of Cannes, we'll have a selection from him showing and highlighting the strongest images for that demand, for that assignment. However, behind me, we will store the rest of the slides simply because there will be personalities we'll want to keep that are not necessarily were demanded by the commissioner, or simply amazing photographs of people, places, location, and this is what we fill behind. It's not necessarily pictures that are going to enter in the photographer's edit of this story, but it's going to be part of an archive that we'll be able to license. Behind me is basically the analogical database of Magnum. All these photographs used to be licensed and sold for any press demands and anything inquiring about a specific theme, personality, or place. With long-term preservation in mind, to retain the color aspect on the color slide, you need to be able to preserve it and store it in cold conditions, simply because film is animal gelatin at the time, so it has a natural process of degradation. Once a color slide is degrading, we can clearly see color shifts. A lot of the time it moves towards the magenta. That's why if you go back to your grandparents' photographs, you'll see them often shifting into magenta tones or orangey tones. Color slides will degrade much quicker than color negatives, and if you preserve it in cold, you'll stop the natural process of degradation.